North Korea is preparing for a new round of weapons tests, South Korean spy agency says. We don't know what to believe anymore as far as what comes from what, and if it's from a spy agency, well, they're a bunch of spies. So we don't know if this is true, but I believe that we will probably see North Korea do more weapons tests. That seems like a very North Korea thing to do. Out of South Korea, North Korea is preparing for a new round of provocative weapons displays such as long-range missile tests and a spy satellite launch as it ramps up illicit activities in support its fragile economy, South Korea's intelligence service told lawmakers Thursday. So just assume that maybe just part of this is true, or even just say, hey, this might be actually true. Nobody really cares about tests, but you have to think about this from an intelligence standpoint. If they are looking at this, they are getting chatter. They have some sort of information that North Korea is going to be launching things like a spy satellite or this or that. Well, in my opinion, that North Korea could play into a whole World War III scenario where they are the puppet, where they are the one that launches things. Now, I don't think there would be too much support. Obviously, if North Korea did something to a regional area, if we wiped out the entire country, just like nuked them into non-existence, I think that people would be pretty mad about all of those innocent people that are basically enslaved there would perish. But I would think that obviously if China or Russia made North Korea do something or told them to do something and they're going to give Kim and his whole family a seat at their table, that basically North Korea could do something and then we could not respond to, say, China or Russia, the real kind of button pushers behind it. I think that North Korea is home to a lot of black market stuff. In fact, I believe now, after talking to ex-military, that even CIA and three-letter agencies are doing illegal things there. Again, this is a place where it's a hermit nation where they can do pretty much anything and everything without any kind of bureaucracy to stop it, and they can do all sorts of really nasty things there. So as far as North Korea's testing, I wonder if the information is based on, some sort of iterance of truth, and wondering what are they going to launch. We know that North Korea, as far as the white papers from the Pentagon, that they're worried about North Korea doing some sort of EMP or super EMP weapon, which was given to them by Russia on the U.S. So we'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's show. We're also going to talk about Finland prepping. They are stocking up big time. And then, of course, many other nations are as well. So they're preparing for something, and they're doing it quietly. Not only that, Space Force has now made a new unit that can actually take out satellites, or at least they've already had one, but now they have made it official, and they even have a really creepy logo. We'll talk about that and much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. We'll be right back, and it is a call-in show. So remember, you can call in at 2244-00-MARF right after we bring Dex in. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfugglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, let's get started here. If you've never been here before, remember you can always go over to marfugglenews.com and you can find today's thumbnail. You can look for Europe preparing for crises and grid at its limit, telling moves, and space war is imminent. This is all there with a full bibliography of all of our sources, every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we have here today, plus a whole lot more. Down at the very bottom, there is actually overflow. Again, that will be all talked about at the very end. Also, remember, you can always find all of our mods at marfooglenews.com/friends. All of our great mods. Make sure to drop an M in the chat right now for the mods. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother / will be on the phones tonight. Dex James, what is going on and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So thank you, Jammer. Thank you, Ilea. KT Cleans a Lot, an early show. Yes, we wanted to test out this time block because, frankly, there's a lot more people that are up. The East Coast has a chance to call in every time we do a show later on. The East Coast always says it's too late for them to call in. So please give us a call, 224-400-MARF. And then also make sure to press option 4 to get through to Dex. Once you get to the phone tree, you'll greeted by that message, and it will give you the options. Option 4, if you just press right there, you'll go right to Dex. And be patient. There's a lot of people calling usually, so if you don't get in or if it keeps ringing, just keep trying. A lot of people grab 2 phones, 3 phones if they want to get in. And then also get in early. If it's at the very end of the show, we probably already have all of our callers lined up. So again, but I wouldn't give up because we always have dropped callers. And Bobby Sue says, late show is better. I like early ones. Yeah, it's half and half. There's a lot of people that like the early shows, and there's a lot of people that just don't. I get you. I started this show at 1 a.m. Pacific time, so people on the East Coast would be waking up to my show. When I was doing this solo, I always did it at 11, 12, 1 a.m. because I was working basically from 8 a.m. to like 11, 12, 1 o'clock some times. And I would get home and then I would do the show and all my kids would be asleep. So that's why it kind of started out like that. But then now Dex is obviously my co-host. He's in East Coast time. So he actually had to stay up. He basically had to be up at like 6 a.m. to do the show or 3 a.m. to do the show. So we've adjusted it, and I actually think that earlier time slots are better, but a lot of people do not like them because of our history with the late shows. Real quick, thank you for the PayPal supporters this year. Linda S., Jacqueline L., Dawn D., Jeff B., and Lisa H. Thank you, guys. And thank you, Everdays, Peter, Mary Mansfield, One Like Us, Karen, Peter Tremblett, thank you, and Just Some Guy. I love that. So back to North Korea. First of all, I don't necessarily think that they will be the one that does something, but that's just one of my theories. I think that they very well could be used to be the kind of scapegoat. Even if they don't do it, they could, go in there and do something from there and then blame it on them. The thing is I don't think China wants to launch a nuke from their country and start a nuclear war. I don't think anybody does. But a lot of people believe that there will be at least some sort of tactical nuke, something that's like a shock and awe to the people around the world. That's why a lot of folks think that there will be some sort of tactical nuke. I don't think that there's going to be a nuclear, mutually assured destruction because that's just stupid. Who would want to do that? Even if they have bunkers and all of these things for the elites, they still wouldn't want to do that. Nobody wants to deal with a nuclear devastated world. But if it was a single event that starts off a massive war that makes billions, if not trillions of dollars, then yeah, I could see that happening. And I could also see that, say, we have to respond in kind. If it's one tactical nuke, then in kind, we respond with a tactical nuke, or we respond with something similar. I'm more worried about like EMP from a satellite that North Korea could launch, something like a fractional orbital bombardment system or a super EMP that was given to them by North Korea. But let me know what you think. Give us a call at 2244-00-MARF. And again, thank you everybody for being here. Thank your mods. Again, they are awesome. They always drop links when we do end up bringing up anything relevant. They are really good about, directing you guys the right place and helping out if anybody has questions. We'll get into that in a little bit. And then ignored warnings, hubris, slow response fueled America's deadliest wildfire in a century. or at least this is what was said. It says a raging fire burning directly into densely populated areas. A historic city built between the ocean and a volcano with limited escape routes. Gale force winds that left firefighters on the defensive. In the wake of the deadliest U.S. wildfire in a century, officials in Hawaii have, at times, insisted that little could have been done to avoid the tragedy that obliterated historic West Maui town and killed scores of residents. It says the largest force at play were 80 miles per hour winds. Now, one thing I want to point out is it's going to come out that there were many mistakes made. The reason why people were seeing pops is because the electricity was not turned off in a lot of these places. Some say that's because of how fast it happened. They just didn't have time. I don't really believe that one, because it literally can be turned off instantly. Whoever's monitoring this thing guaranteed knew about the whole fire thing. I mean, like, they're monitoring it 24/7. But it said that, quote, Josh Green, the same guy that made those quotes and those statements about acquiring the land for the state, said, "We have doubts that much could have been done with a fiery, fast-moving fire like that. Yet there is plenty of evidence that government officials should have been aware of the danger to Lahaina, home of generations of Hawaiian families and once home to the Hawaiian king." So it has a really, really amazing history. The more you look into it, if you actually look at the area that was affected, it was rich with history. And now they're possibly going to tear it down and make some sort of, one world center or something. It says, "In what makes the wildfire all the more tragic, forever linking the town with an unspeakable sorrow, is there is actually far more time to sound an alarm. A crucial reason why the fire killed so many, at least 106 victims, which they still don't know if that's the final number. They say 1,300 are still unspoken for, and almost certainly more, is because the ignition point was in a residential neighborhood, not miles away from the wilderness." It says the fire began at the town's highest elevation near a subdivision tucked beneath canyons that spit out howling gusts during a Santa Ana-style wind event. The orientation of those canyons and the way that the nearby neighborhoods were built in the 1970s and 80s created a dangerous situation in the event of a wildfire. Should homes there ignite during Santa Ana-style winds, burning embers would be blown to the southwest, acting like a fiery dagger to the heart of the historic Lahaina, which is precious few escape routes. So one thing I think of too, and this brings me to another tragedy, no matter how this happened and how it started, the escape routes part of this. I think of towns like Ocean Shores and Westport and places like this where, Moclips, Washington, we have a disaster that is a guaranteed. It's not like it might happen. It is a guaranteed tsunami that's going to happen on the West Coast. And this tsunami, not to mention after this recent trip, there's jetties out in the water, and in the water that is out. When I talk to the people of the town, essentially they believe, they're like, well, we're just goners when this thing happens, because there is one route out of town. There is a 2-lane road that takes at least 30 minutes to get out of, and all 30 minutes you're driving, you're in an area that will be 60 feet underwater when this thing happens, possibly 100 feet underwater. There's no way to survive, and the thing is going to get there in 15 minutes. So if you do the math, they're literally all going to be gone. And if it's a summer period when there's a lot of guests there, you're talking about a place that has a 5,000 population, but 500,000 people when it's tourist season. 500,000 in a little town that's on an inlet that is going to be underwater with one road out. It's really crazy. Even if they do 2 lanes going the other way. But I think of like this fire, how no matter how it happened, basically people were trapped. A similar thing kind of happened with the California event, where there was kind of these main roads out, and then once cars were stopped, people got screwed. People got trapped. People couldn't go anywhere, and they couldn't run fast enough away from it. As far as back to the situation there, it's like how, I guess there's got to be some sort of new tech solution for this kind of stuff. By the way, after visiting the jetties a couple years ago, it is really insane because now they've found out that these waves that are going to hit the West Coast are not only going to be, 60, 70, 100 feet, because of these jetties with these lips that also makes the water extremely rough right outside like ocean shores. It's also going to be a lip that's going to launch the wave higher than 125 feet. We know this because they've changed the evacuation point from Mo Clips to basically not having one because Mo Clips is going to be underwater. It has a cliff that's 125 feet high with a military base. It was the evacuation point. Now it is not because scientists now say that it is going to be a higher tsunami than that. And I think of towns like this and the similarities that, are to come in ocean shores compared to, say, something like Lahaina. No matter what your argument is of how it started, how it was done, whatever happened, the fact lies that a bunch of folks lost their lives. In fact, yesterday I saw an article that said that many of them were probably children. So there could be very evil reasons behind it. Whatever the reasons behind it, they have to figure out something. We're supposed to be this high-tech civilization, but how do we still have places that one event like this, one fire, one flood, one tsunami, there's got to be some sort of solution to places like this that especially have these tourist numbers that are insane. We have no idea how many people are actually perished in this Hawaii event. So it's very, very freaky. Give me your opinion at 224400MARF. Again, that's 2244006273. The number is going to be scrolling down below, so give us a call. Again, they talked about how it created a carpet of fuel, all that. And then state grid operator asked Texans to reduce energy use on Thursday afternoon as demand spikes. So we've been talking about this all summer long, that grids all over have been at their peak and at their limits. It says the state's electric grid operator is asking people to reduce their power use between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Thursday, when forecasters expect to see high demand for electricity because of extremely hot temperatures that are baking the state. To lower energy use, the Electric Reliability Council of Texas recommends that residents raise their thermostat by a degree or two if safe, refrain from running large appliances such as washing machines and dryers, and turn off and unplug lights and other appliances that aren't needed, because even if they are off, sometimes they are still taking power. It says this is the second such request that grid operators have made this summer. The call does not mean the grid is in emergency conditions, but is a way for operators to try to lower demand when conditions look right. It says which typically occurs late in the day when it's still hot and people return home from work, where they might flip on their TVs, cook dinner, and crank up their air conditioners. Speaking of which, we are going through a heat wave here, even with ACs, because we have crappy ACs here. We're not set up for heat. For the third day in a row, I'm literally dying here. Could not sleep the last 2 nights because I don't know if you've ever slept in a I know that a lot of you live in places like Arizona, whatever else, but some of the hottest places are set up with amazing AC. We're not set up with that here. So when it gets hot and it's uncomfortable at night, it is almost impossible. I had a headache the last 2 days up until 4 in the morning, just sitting there, no blankets, with 4 fans on me, trying to go to sleep. It was just horrendous. And I can only imagine how you guys are doing in the Midwest and some of these places that are getting this heat that aren't exactly set up for this. Texas is, but at the same time with the grid, how it is, it's like we're waiting for the next big disaster to happen. And that's why I encourage everybody that's in Texas or any of these places, really nationwide. It doesn't matter if you're in Seattle or New York. There have been these events that happen to places that never happen. For instance, we're going to cover here in a little bit that there's possibly going to be a hurricane hitting LA. That just doesn't happen. I believe they say the last time it happened is 1939. So if this continues to change, no matter if it's man doing it or a cyclical thing, it's happening. And I encourage you guys, please get prep going, get water, get food for disasters and for things that you aren't expecting. The more people that are prepared, the better we'll all feel, And again, I think that this is a disaster, a ticking time bomb in Texas, and in all of these other places. In a couple weeks from now, we could see a huge event where the grid goes down in an entire city, and then everybody is essentially running around with their heads cut off like a chicken, and people won't know what to do. So I believe Texas folks do, kind of prepare more than a lot of places in the country because of all of the natural disasters that have happened. But it doesn't matter where you are, you should have prep. Let me know what you think, and then call in. Do you have weather events happening where you are that are not normal? Give us a call at 2244-006273. Again, that's 2244-006273. Hey, thank you, Ilea, for modding. Kenny Crowder, hey, nice to see you. Jay Poe, several years ago, there was a heat wave there. There was a blackout. Everyone rushed out to get bags of ice, cooked as much as we could. Much our meat spoiled, so we fed the turkey vultures. Jay Poe. Isn't that like the perfect example? Like, everybody goes out, they get the ice. The ice machines will be empty instantly. Meat goes bad. Everything goes bad. If you lose power, you lose your fridges. You lose all of our, modern day appliances that, you've come to grown so grateful for. And then when we don't have them, people just don't really know what to do. All right. And then North Korean missile capable of striking the U.S., likely a result of cooperation with Russia. Well, this is kind of like a think tank says. It says North Korea's successful test launch on July 12th of a nuclear-capable intercontinental ballistic missile equipped to penetrate U.S. missile defenses is likely the result of technical cooperation sourced to Russia, according to a new think tank report first obtained by NBC News. The Hwasong-18 missile's physical dimensions and its flight trajectory data appear nearly identical to that of Russia's Topol-M ICBM, says the report authored by Dr. Theodore A. Postol, a professor emeritus of science, technology, and national security policy at MIT. The report was written beyond parallel, a project sponsored by the Defense's think tank and the Center for Strategic International Studies. The new missile represents a sudden and significant advancement of North Korea's ballistic missile arsenal. So just for a second here, assume that this is at all true and take it with a grain of salt. It's a think tank saying that we think this. They're saying that this is nearly identical to Russia. Well, we know for a fact Russia has admitted that they've given them a super EMP weapon. They said, Russia essentially said, well, they either took it from us or we may have given it to them. They literally said that. So assume that they just gave it to them, right? This is what I'm talking about with Russia possibly using somewhere, or really China, because I think China is pulling the strings for Russia too, say that they essentially have North Korea do something stupid because it's a hermit nation. It's much more complicated if we're to respond. They say that they'll wipe them off the map, but that's not the popular belief with activists and everybody else that talks about the people there. So I guess what would happen if North Korea launched a missile like this at the U.S.? And this is exactly my thought train for the last 5 years. I've thought, man, North Korea could totally launch on us. And yes, even if we do wipe out a place, it would be wiping out North Korea, not Russia, not China. And does Kim really have much to live for if Kim drives at night? He's been for years driving at night, scared of getting taken out, possibly could have been taken out by somebody. Who knows? Russia could have taken them out. All of a sudden, his sister is speaking for him. He had that surgery where people said he was straight up dead. And now, all of a sudden, his sister's in the picture and some weird daughter and all of this. It seems like they're setting up the next generations of who's going to run this hermit nation where they do black market stuff. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below and give me a call at 2244-00-MARF. Again, that's 2244-00-MARF. Thank you for the glory of Christ, Poco Loco, and Karen from Columbus, Kiki Gray. Bug Nana, thank you for your support over on D-Live. I appreciate that. And it looks like we have, let's see here. There we go. Thank you, Disaster Prediction App. I appreciate your support. Say, may the one bless the all and the all bless the one. On the summit next week, hope to hear back from you, brothers. Your mail. Peace and love. Janet Ruth Haynes, thank you for your support yesterday. I appreciate that. And then thank you, Kenny Crowder. Hey, Adam, Dex, and Mods, and Foogle Fam. Says, hope you're ready. Stay safe. Love your way. Thank you, Kenny Crowder. I appreciate that. And thanks for sticking around. Kenny Crowder, by the way, is one of my oldest subscribers on the platform. So thank you. Brian Hilary, thank you. And then thank you for the number one emoji there. And then Jenny C. Papa's Princess says, keep on keeping on, Adam. Love what you do. Well, Jenny C., thank you for being here. Seriously, every single person that's here, I appreciate. I was just talking to somebody else the other day, a new creator that was talking about subs, and I need more subs, and I need more subs, and I lost so many subs. I've said this for years. You should not look at a YouTube channel and think about subs. Every one of those subscriptions is a person. And I told this person to be very grateful for what they have, which they have at least a few thousand. And I'm thinking, think about that in the terms of how many people that would be in a room or even a big venue. If you've ever been at a concert with 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 people, that's a lot of people. And that's how I looked at it when I was growing. And when I first got 50, I was thinking, man, that's like a whole room full of people. That's like a whole church full of people. When I thought of 300, I thought, the speech I did when I was a teenager in this big Benaroya Hall, and I was thinking, man, that was 300 people. That's a lot of people you're reaching every day. And if you think about it like that, you'll be much better off than, oh, I have 10 less or this or that. Think about it in the amount of people that you're able to reach every day. And I feel very, very blessed that I see new names like Jenny C. Papas. I feel very blessed to see new names every day. So thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate you. And then to think of like 50,000 as a stadium, to think that both of our channels are around 200,000, that's just insane. Very, very blessed and very thankful. Speaking of thankful, let's talk to the Foogle fam. Let's see here. We're going to be opening up the phones here in just a second and going over. It looks like we have, let's see. It looks like we have Kimmers IMJ, a first-time caller talking about new technology. Before we go over to Kimmers, I do want to remind you, again, make sure to go check out Energy. They make some of the best solar generators on the market. If you have kind of your arsenal of prepper supplies, one of the number one things on everybody's is a generator. Life without power sucks. And if you can have backup power that's absolutely silent, that basically nobody can hear, that you can run inside, and that has unlimited power that you don't have to store gas for, and you can charge from your wall when you do have electricity, then that is exactly what a solar generator does. These are awesome because they are modular. You can change them. You can expand them up to 96 batteries. Not to mention, these can be altered and edited to essentially meet whatever needs you need them for. They work like Legos, so each brick has either a battery or a function. So, for instance, they have a UPS module that can literally just plug in between the battery and the head unit, and it will make it an uninterrupted power supply. They have a supercharger module that will turn it into a supercharged unit that can take 3 times the amount of panels. The cool thing about this is you don't have to store gas. You don't have to locate gas in an SHTF situation. You just have to have these panels and the cord that plugs into the head unit. It's super easy. There's no advanced thing. You take the panel, you plug one cord into the unit, and put it out in the sun. That is much easier than, say, having barrels of fuel, flammable fuel. And, of course, if you're in an apartment, you probably can't do that anyways. So this is a really, really good thing to have. marfooglenews.com/energy. As far as the brand, I think they make the best solar generators out there. I think they're the toughest. I also think that they have some of the best reputation out there. As far as the Flex 1500, this is actually just won an SBIR Army contract. So if you go with the tactical, you'll be getting the same unit that they're going to be shipping off with the Army. Again, was designed with the Air Force Research Laboratory, and they just won the SBIR Phase 2 contract with the U.S. Army. So you want tough, military tough, this is the one to go for. Again, that's marfugglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Not only will you get a huge savings, but you'll also be helping your independent channel here. So thank you guys. We are on our own, and we have an uphill battle to go up against. So thank you. All right, let's bring on, let's see here, Kimmers, IMJ. Kimmers, you're live on Marfoogle News.
Hey, Adam, how you doing?
Hey, we had a friend that we called Kimmers. Her name was Kim, and we always called her Kimmers. What's going on?
Yeah, everybody's called me that since I was a child. Well, first I wanted to thank you so much. As I was telling Dex, this is my number one place to go for everything. I've been listening to you for many years, driving my son back and forth to college. And when anybody ever attacks you, I get extremely upset and defensive because I think you are one of the most, on YouTube or anywhere, one of the most humble, kind, genuine human beings. You're genuinely doing this for our benefit while you're trying to raise kids and work. And I appreciate you so much. And I don't know what I would do without your show and the community. So I appreciate you and Dex, and I pray for you, both of you and your families every day. So I wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Kimmers.
And I hope everything's getting better in your family and you find your doggy, and I just hope everything gets better. So, but you are covered in prayer, just so you know that. So the reason I was calling is because, normally I just kind of sit back and I listen, and I've been watching things unfold for a long time. I think when it all started, I was a flight attendant for American Airlines. So when that fateful day happened 21 years ago, I knew something wasn't right with the story. I knew something wasn't right. And I found another flight attendant that's on YouTube named Rebecca Roth. And she had been trained basically the same way I was as a flight attendant. And so all these years later, I started watching her videos and listening, and I'm like, yes, there's something wrong. So as you know, we all end up going down the rabbit hole and figuring things out. And I am a Christian. And so I've been watching, there's another great pastor that I watch, and he can't be on YouTube because he speaks truth. And so he has to do it all on his website. His name is J.D. Farag, jdfarag.org. And he talks about everything flat out, and otherwise he gets censored. So I've been connecting the dots, and I think everything that's been happening ever since, we were all stuck in our houses and whatnot was obviously it's intentional to bring down, the system so that another one can be brought in. And with all these different things, I've been reading Revelation, especially Revelation 18. And certain things are just starting to click with me because, as we know, all these things that are going on with, other countries this has been going on for 3 years, and we keep hearing all this, rhetoric and fear. And I believe that the people in control are also, not only do they lie, but they very much they serve their father, the devil, quite well. They enjoy controlling people. Fear. They absolutely love to control people with fear. And God says in scripture that we haven't been given a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of sound mind. So no matter what I hear on TV, I absolutely will not give them that benefit. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid at all because I know Jesus Christ, and I know that he's always had me and my kids and protected us. But I'm realizing that some of the things that have happened just in recent days that people are starting to figure out is not natural. I'm starting to look at the book of Revelation and looking at how Babylon the Great is destroyed in 1 hour by fire. And it says in Revelation 18:8, therefore shall her plagues come in 1 day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who judgeth her. and I've said to people, I know it's hard to think about America and that happening. I'm 56 years old and I don't even recognize my country anymore. I'm absolutely devastated. I have a grandson that's 1 year old, and it's just not the same place anymore. And I know that this is intentional.
Huge changes.
And it's like I'm watching it unfolding. And even my kids who are just in their early 20s are like, what the heck happened? You raised us, and like somebody flipped a switch, and something like it's out of control. It's crazy. But I had told my kids back in 2017, I sat them down and I said, this is not for fear, but we do believe in Jesus. And I'd like for you to look at the book of Revelation, and I want to tell you something. Things are going to start to change. And certain people that were in office and stuff, I'm like, it doesn't matter. You cannot solve a spiritual problem with a political solution. It's not going to happen. And I said, a lot of things are going to happen, and it's going to change, and it's going to get really scary. We're living in the last days, but God's got us. And then the whole shutdown thing came, and then everything else, and we refused everything. We weren't going to do it. We're like, no, we know the bigger picture, what's going on here. And I've been trying to put things together, and I personally, and this is just my belief, and I just am putting this out there for people to think about it. If you read Revelation 18, and I know there's some people that aren't believers, but if you read about it, because we know that this country and the dollar has to go. And I feel like that day 21 years ago that happened, I feel like Revelation 18 is the final day for that, the last final blow. And when it talks about, being destroyed by fire, these countries in the news is pushing all these things that are going to be used, certain boom booms, that if it happens, it leaves all this destruction and you can't inhabit. And I'm trying to use the list that Dex gave me not to say too much. I don't believe in the things that start with N that they're threatening the country with, and that everybody says they have these and they're going to use them and it's going to be destruction. Because if certain people have taken over, as we know, a lot of the farmland in this country, and what's happened in another island and certain things, and we're finding out that a lot of this land is being taken up. Why would other countries and other people take over the land if they're going to turn around and use something that will make the land uninhabitable for years and years? I personally think what happened recently in a beautiful place not that far away, that is what Revelation 18 is going to be. Or the things that, I'm not sure what term to use, but they erected a lot of these big, tall things after certain things, after our shutdowns, that people thought was going to make our phone calls a lot better. I don't think that's the purpose for those. I think when you look into what those are for and what they do to the oxygen and the human lungs and certain things, personally, I think that's going to be used. And I think because, like I told my daughter, I said, a lot of people say that, certain things that people had put into their bodies has metal in it. I said, what happens when you put a piece of metal in a microwave? And essentially, it's pretty scary. I believe whatever they push is not what's actually, I think that's, and you said it so many times, Adam, and I'm like, yeah, he gets it. Whatever they're going, look at this, this is what's going to happen. You've got to be able to take it with a grain of salt and look around and say, okay, what are they not talking about? What's kind of laying down there off to the side that we're not really looking at that could be used for other nefarious purposes?
Well,
There's a lot of land grabs going on.
Well, for instance, so I pointed this out on Twitter, Fox, and I'll try, Dex, I don't know if you're able to, but on my Twitter, I put this thing from Fox. If I pull it up, it might screw me up. But about Fox pointing out that every day that they brought an indictment on our former prez, that there was some sort of big event going on with the current prez's son, right? And they're pointing this out, and you could say, oh yeah, that's totally there, and they're calling out the truth that this lined up. But it's been so obvious that we didn't need a Fox News, video thing going, here's the dates. Look at the dates these line up. They're essentially telling us this was a distraction from this. We all saw it. The fact that mainstream is now pointing it out, and now Fox has kind of gone in the same direction as well, it's on purpose. So that means for those that it went right over their head, they wanted to make sure you knew that this was a distraction and that they're doing these things, because they want you to see all of the other distractions, and then we all start getting more and more pissed off. They are trying to divide and conquer. They are pissing everybody off on purpose. They know that we're going to react to these things. They have gamed it out. They've think tanked it out. They're looking at the 4D chess and what our reactions are going to be. I mean, why do you think that these things came out about the Supreme Court rulings and things? Why do you think that came out early and nobody, they still have some BS reason of why it came out early? All of these things that have happened over the last few years, it's all happening, and most people say that it's happening as planned. Like it's just one thing after another.
I believe that. I believe that 100%. And, even my kids have been like, well, why is all this coming out now? I said, well, many years things were hidden. I said, but they don't care anymore. They're putting everything out in plain sight because it's almost game over. And they know there's a lot of people that are like me who I'm in North Shore, Chicago, in the suburbs, and I literally feel like I'm on a desert island. Thank God for your show, because other than my kids, I don't have people around me that are awake. People think I'm nuts. People are purposely wearing face diapers here again because people are terrified. And I'm like, I can't believe I walk around and it's surreal that people have no idea. And I said, everything's going to change very soon forever. And I'm watching it approach like a slow motion train coming up the track, and you see it and the people on this channel see it. And I'm looking at what's just happened in that beautiful place over there where people were jumping in the water to survive. And now the truth is coming out. And I'm and sometimes I just break down in tears. I honestly just start crying because I'm people here have no idea what's coming. They have no idea what's coming. And sometimes even in the Bible, it says with much knowledge comes much grief. And it's very hard sometimes knowing things and people don't want to listen to you. I know a lot of people don't believe in the Bible and they don't think it's true. But it's literally unfolding. I and many others feel like we know Bible prophecy, and I've been watching since about 2015. And it's almost as if I feel like even the people that run things are and I know they hate Christians, they hate Jesus, but it's almost like they're yeah, you know what? It's like a playbook, and it's playing out exactly. And Jesus said we wouldn't know the day or the time, but we would know the season. And literally, it's I see it coming, and it feels kind of slow, and there's a lot of anxiety that comes with it. And you validate everything that I find out, and you make it okay, I'm not crazy here. You see that it's coming, and I get so angry when people call you fear-mongering, because I'm that is their denial speaking, that they don't want to face it. But once you face it, and especially if you know God and how he protects those he loves, I'm not afraid at all. I'm not afraid at all. And I'm grateful for this community of people that we can all get together and we can just not fight. And because of you and the type of person you are, that's why this community is this way. Because you set the tone for the kindness and the respect. And this is my only place to come, so I don't feel completely alone and nuts. But I just want people to think about it and maybe read it. And maybe just watch jdfarag.org. He has prophecy updates. And this pastor is the only pastor I know that's I'm not bending over and shutting my mouth for anybody. And he talks about literally everything. Well, every Sunday for years. And
Kimmers, it's definitely the
season.
Anyway,
I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Well, we know it's the season. That's what we feel like. We don't know the day or the time, but it most definitely feels like the season. Thank you so much for calling in, Kimmers, and I'm so surprised that you've been here for years and it's your first time call. So don't be a stranger, okay?
Okay, thank you. And God bless all of you here, and Dex, and you especially, Adam. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Kimmers. Again, see you in chat, and we'll talk to you again. Bye. God bless.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much. Make sure to thank the Kimmers for calling in. Push anybody who calls in up, not down. That should be an obvious thing. I usually on call-in shows go through it in the very beginning, but we make sure most of the folks that are calling in, they're going to pop back into chat. Same rules apply. Like if you were sitting at a table with 5 people and then somebody went up to speak, would you start heckling them for them to only sit right next to you back at the same dinner table and then eat an awkward dinner? Probably not. Just be polite and be patient. I actually really appreciated Kimmer's call, and thank you so much for saying those things, Kimmer. I have there was one part as far as the nuclear thing, right? A lot of people say that it wouldn't be. I do believe that that's where it comes in, that they've stabilized that CL-20 or whatever. China says that they've stabilized CL-20. It's like a nuclear type explosion, but without the radiation. And it used to be so unstable that if you were to transport it by truck, you hit literally a pebble, the whole truck is going to blow. But somehow they've stabilized that. So I also think that that's going to play into whatever happens next. If they've truly stabilized that CL-20, you can look it up. It's really scary stuff. It's one of the most explosive things out there, and now it's somewhat stable according to China. But who knows if they're telling the truth. And then constructions of Europe's largest doomsday stockpile quietly gets underway. Finland is stockpiling emergency supplies to help prepare for a potential nuclear catastrophe in an EU-funded project spurred by the threat posed by Russia's invasion of UKR. A Finnish interior ministry said on Wednesday that the stockpile would include protective gear, measurement equipment, medicines, and V's for an emergency involving chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear, aka CBRN. So if we say CBRN, that is the chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear for the rest of the show. The CBRN is essentially kind of covers all bases, right? Well, what if it's more of a chemical? What if it's more of a biological? It's hard for us to wrap our heads around a biological event happening, and some of us believe that one has already happened. Interesting part about Kimmer's call is she said that people are wearing the things again. I have actually seen that there's been people on social media saying, "Oh, I went to the doctor, I was really sick, and I guess I have the thing again." I have to say I did get a good chuckle. One of my another streamer said, "Oh, I've got this," and the responses were like, "Okay." Sorry. Like a lot of people were like, "Okay, drink some water." Whereas 3 or 4 years ago, people would have been like, "Oh no, do you have a will?" Now people are like, "Drink lots of, drink Gatorade." But these things it's slowly creeping back up. And I feel like if something was a test or test run, then man, I would hate to see the real thing. Think about what they thought it was at first, and then think about what it ended up being, and then think about the real thing happening, like 50% mortality, 80% mortality, 100% mortality, that kind of thing happening. That is the kind of thing that is sitting in beakers right now in several places all over the world. Something that if released, a whole city goes, bleh. And guess what? There's things that can do that. This is what people don't think about. They don't have to use a nuclear weapon to take out every human, and it would take out every human and it would not irradiate the actual place. It might It might for a couple days, but then it's gone. They could drop something out of the sky that would knock us all out and forever, and it would be gone within weeks. There's literal studies around these things that they could literally put it in the air. New York is doing chemical and biological drills right now in the subway, and they are basically releasing a chemical. This is what happened last year. They released a harmless chemical, they said, and they went to each exit and entrance of the subway, and they were testing on how it traveled through. Of course, there's going to be some outliers saying, what are they doing? Is that practice? Or is that testing for if it happens, right? Well, if they're doing that, there's a chance that they have some sort of rumors that it could happen. Maybe it is something that on a way, way higher level that our adversaries are working on. This is why people prep. This is why this is from a prepper standpoint. I bet you that if everyone took just 1% of kind of this prepper view at things, that the whole world would be way better, especially during disasters, towards everything. There are whole countries, when they get hit by disaster, they are so much better than everywhere else in the world. Take Japan, when earthquakes hit, because they're so prepared for earthquakes. When that earthquake and tsunami hit, even though they had no idea that a tsunami was possible like that, even though they had no idea that subduction zone that went the 9.2, even though they didn't know that could even happen, they prepared their buildings up to like an 8.2. So all of their buildings were prepared for it. If they weren't, I guarantee you there would be so many more in that death toll than there was, because they were already prepared for earthquakes. As far as finish, they're actually doing things. They go out into the communities. They tell people to prep. They teach people how to prep. There's tons of free programs where people can go and learn how to prepare food and store it long term. There's a bunch of a ton of European countries that do this, and I don't understand why we don't here. The CIA has turned it into like, oh, you're loopy, you're crazy if you prepare. Preparing by nature is responsible, and I don't understand why people look at it any way else. The reason why people have said that is because they think everybody is doing it for fear mongering, but fear mongering is doing it for a reason. You're trying to scare somebody and like direct them towards something. I think that's what it is. But as far as if you truly believe this is going on, then it's not like a fear thing. It's more like we're getting ready for this to happen. Finish's stockpiles, by the way, just want to point out, it says Finland was given funding, $242 million for the project at the start of 2023 after Janez Lenaric, European Commissioner for Crisis Management, said on the 17th of January, UKR has confirmed the need, Russian invasion of Ukraine has confirmed the need to strengthen EU CBRN preparedness. Finland has just joined NATO, with its membership spurred across by the threat of Moscow poses, and it shares an 800-mile border with Russia, and it's close to the Baltic states, which have warned about the danger of Moscow's nuclear capabilities. Finland's CBRN Reserves project manager, Tarja Ratala, said in a statement that while similar reserves are being set up in France, Poland, and Croatia, Helsinki's plan is by far the largest and would be ready by next year. The project is part of the Civil Protection Mechanism, the heart of which the EU Emergency Response Coordination Center, the ERCC in Brussels, which coordinates assistance from around the world, although it prioritizes European countries. So, again, establishing a CBRN strategic reserves on this scale in Europe is, to a very large extent, a pilot project. So they're saying that this is start of something that is a pilot project for everybody to do. So it sounds like something is in the works, and mainstream is always pointing us towards something. And because mainstream covers it, people will go, "Oh, it's not true." Mainstream has covered, before things have happened, they've covered tons of real events. But you have to understand there's a bias. Maybe they cover a real event that happens, and beforehand they'll cover it, and before it even happens, they'll convince you that somebody else may have done it. It's a real event, but now with pre-setup, you think, oh, it's this that did it, or that did it. But that event still happens. People are under the impression that if mainstream covers it, it's completely false. They also direct a story. They'll direct the narrative on something. So it'll be a real event, but they will direct your view on that event. That's what we have to get down. It's not just it's fake or it's real because it's mainstream. Mainstream has predicted time after time huge, horrible events. But the view that we have on that horrible event is changed, altered, and twisted and tweaked by these mainstream medias. So I think that needs to be something that people really have to get through their head. And then Russia hopes to destroy Su-24 runways so Ukraine can't launch Western missiles. At least this is what's being said. The goal of Russia's increased attacks on targets in Ukraine's rear may be to deprive Kyiv on the ability to launch long-range Western missiles from Su-24 bombers, the Financial Times reported in an article published on August 17th. The FT noted that Russia had fired 28 missiles into Western Ukraine over the last week, targeting air bases, runways, and pilot training centers located far from the front line. Kyiv and its allies reportedly see the strikes as part of a broader campaign to disrupt Ukraine's runways and air fleet to prevent launches of Britain's Storm Shadow missiles and their French counterpart, the Scalp. So both the Storm Shadow missiles we talked about when they sent those and the Scalp, they can go deep into Russia. They can knock things out. It says that Ukrainian pilots are constantly shuttling around dozens of domestic air bases and commercial airports. They're trying to move critical weapons and its skilled personnel quickly to avoid strikes. So this is somewhat admitting that UKR is essentially moving to try to avoid getting hit. So whatever the truth may be, they're admitting that UKR specialist personnel and equipment is being moved frantically around to not be destroyed. So there could be some admission that Russia is basically striking these really, really important parts, which they don't admit too much about any kind of victories from Russia's side because it is biased coverage. It's not just fair and balanced, like every one of them probably has on their website. We're fair and balanced on a broken scale. After the August 11th attack, UKR Air Force spokesman Yuri Inhat said that the Russia strike on Ivano-Frankivsk Oblast was aimed at military airfields where young UKR pilots who are scheduled to go to Europe to train on F-16 fighter jets are based. So they're basically saying that they were trying to knock them out so that this thing would basically slow down the process of them getting these pilots and to getting these things in the air. If it's true, I don't know, but again, give me your opinion. 2244000MARF. Again, that's 2244000MARF. And thank you, by the way, Mitch Mouth. Thank you so much for the massive support. Thank you for the $49 super chat. We appreciate that. It says a gift to Jehovah on the Feast of Trumpets tonight, according to the new moon barley calendar. Jehovah was designated his gift to go to Adam. He wants you to learn about his Sabbath. Mitch Mouth, thank you for that. I don't know what the barley calendar is. I apologize. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you so much, Mitch. And then, what is that? Cylinder, thank you so much for subscribing. And as always, if you subscribe during the show, I will shout you out. Thank you, Judith A. Jean-Francois, Tom Sawyer, Sharon, thank you. Scott, Helena, Peter K. Let's see here. Pete B. And Sir Williams, thank you so much for subscribing as well. And then Turkey warns Russia about escalating shipping in the Black Sea. So this is kind of a confirmation and update on former stories that we told you guys about with their checking ships. It says that Turkey has discussed with Russia the incident with the Sukru Okan cargo ship, which was detained by the Russian military over the weekend and warned against attempts to escalate in the Black Sea. It says that sorry about that, citing a message of the Center of Combating Disinformation under the Turkish President's Directorate. Sorry, that got thrown in here because of the format. The DMM's report concerned the refutation of reports of an alleged attack by the Russian military on a Turkish ship. They explained that the incident with Sukru Okan occurred in international waters, and the ship, although belonging to a Turkish company, was under the flag of Panama. Despite all of this, after the interference in the ship's movement, the interlocutors, sounds like something out of Start, interlocutors, sounds like Locutus of Borg or something. The interlocutors in the Russian Federation were duly warned to avoid such attempts to escalate tensions in the Black Sea, the Turkish administration added. So they're actually saying that one of the ships that was grabbed was actually done wrongfully, but they're also confirming that this was done and that it was done in international waters. There was a debate about that yesterday or the day before. And if you missed that story, essentially Russia was stopping. They took the whole crew basically hostage, had them get down on their knees. There's video footage, basically a body cam footage of them taking the helm, getting everybody together and essentially checking the ship. Because now Russia says that if they see ships, they're going to check them. And Ukraine says if they see Russian ships, they are going to check them. Any of their adversaries, they're going to essentially, get like pirates, get onto the ships and take them over and check what they're doing. If there's weapons on it, I'm assuming they'll just take them, right? So crazy, crazy stuff going on in the Black Sea. Let's see here. We have our next caller lined up. We have Stephanie, another first-time caller, talking about Lahaina fire and her family that lives there. So Stephanie, we're going to get you on the line. Stephanie, if you want to start the process of getting in. Real quick, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. If there was to ever be an EMP or an electromagnetic pulse strike, then this would be something you absolutely want on your cars, your trucks, your vehicles, your motorcycles, your boats, pretty much anything that you want to keep running, they have an EMP shield for. What it does is it grounds the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before an EMP or a CME or a Carrington level event can fry your device. So these are really, really easy to put in as far as the vehicle versions. The EMP Micro and the EMP Shield regular, these are essentially a red wire, a black wire, and a green wire. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground. It actually hooks up right to the frame of your car, and then it will ground that signal to the frame, and boom, you're still running. This is extremely important, especially if you work far from home, and if something happens while you're at work, how are you going to get home if your car doesn't run? Or if you are planning on bugging out and your car is susceptible to this, then I would highly recommend getting this on. Once it's on, you're good. You don't have to think about it anymore. Once it's wired in, just forget about it. Then you've got yourself protection. This is the same company that's outfitting DHS, DOD, and now the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. So again, it's an incredible invention, and it's something that if all of us had, we wouldn't even have to worry about EMP or CME, at least not for our cars. Frankly, it would be really cool if cars were just built with these standard if they had an issue like that. Again, marfooglenews.com/EMP. Make sure to use the code MARF. And there also is a home version, and there's also a ham radio version, solar generator version for the Flex 1500. There's all sorts of great items over there, so make sure to go check it out. It helps support us, and you get $50 off per device. All right, and then let's get our next caller, Stephanie, on. Stephanie, you're live on Marfoogle News.
Good evening, Adam.
Hey, Stephanie. So you said your family is in Hawaii. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what's going on?
Yeah, so my family has been living there for over 20 years. I went to school there and graduated Lahaina High School with honors. And I also attended Maui Prep. Um, and I had actually, my boss had been heckling me to use my PTO for the longest time now. And she's like, "You need to go visit your family." And this is before all that the fires went down. Um, and like it just seems like the day that I agreed to use my PTO to visit my family, I was going to visit them during the holidays this year. And it seems like the day that I agreed that I was going to use my PTO to visit my family, the very next day is when my boyfriend's mom sent me an article, and she was like, "What island does your family live in? Is this going on where they are?" And I click on the link and I see that not only was it Maui, it was Lahaina, and my family had just moved from Napili to Lahaina the year before. And I don't know, like when I saw that on the article, I I started bringing up my mom, my dad, my sisters, and of course I couldn't get connected to anyone. And I was in the middle of work, because I don't currently live on the island. I've been in Kentucky for the past couple years. And that entire day, I couldn't get a hold of anyone. And then I finally got in touch with an aunt that lives in another country. And she told me that the last time she heard from my parents was the night before or the day before, but the fires didn't start until that evening. And I don't know, it was like a couple days before I even heard from my family at all. And they just, when I finally got a hold of them, they told me that they lost everything. They lost their homes. They lost everything that belonged to their business. And I have two younger sisters as well. Um, one of them that's pregnant with her third, and the other two are 5 and 2 years old. And they just lost everything. And this past week, I don't know, it's just been very hard to get a hold of them. It was always on and off, and it wasn't until these past couple of days that I've been having a more solid connection, getting a hold of them, and just the things that they've been telling me, it just breaks my heart. Because that, like my family, my parents, especially, they're the hardest working people I've ever known, and just for them to lose everything in a single night, it's just really tragic.
You know, my sister, who has many friends on Lahaina, she said she has never cried over a natural disaster ever, as much as she has for this one. And all of her friends there were affected. Uh, as far as do you you still have not been able to go there, and have you talked to everybody? What is the update on all of your family?
By God's grace, they're all alive. I've been like ever since that happened, I was praying every night and every morning that I would hear back from them, and they're all alive. Like it's not just my mom and dad and my sisters and my two nephews. I also had uncles and aunts and cousins and other nephews and nieces there, and thank goodness they're all alive. But it was a very intense week, and I'm still feeling it right now. Like, I just haven't been able to get sleep. And I can't even imagine what my family's going through, just trying to survive. Like, I've been hearing things about how it's been very difficult to get emergency supplies and just getting from one island to the other, because if everyone's aware of how the island is, there's basically one main road going from the west side to the east side, and the east side is basically where they have everything: Costco, Walmart, everything that you would buy groceries for. It would be on that side. Like, they have their little grocery stores on the west, of course, but my family would always go to the east side of the island to get all their groceries and supplies. So being cut off from that was very difficult, especially with so many people that were affected.
So the high school you went to, Lahaina High, and you said was it Lahaina Hawaii Prep? Was that what it was? Are those still standing, or did those get burned? Do you know?
So I did ask my sister 2 days ago, and she said that Lahaina Luna was untouched. And I'm pretty sure I didn't ask about Maui Prep, but I think that's, since it was closer to Napili, it was fine as well.
Now, you said your folks and a lot of the folks you people you knew, they lost everything. How did they escape? Do you know, or was there how did they get out of it, or were they not there when it happened, or did they have a story of how they got away from it?
Yes, I was talking to Dex about that. So the day that it happened, my sister was telling me all this. She said that the day that it happened, the schools had closed because of the hurricane warnings. So all the kids were home. And I don't even want to think about what happened to those kids, because none of the alarms or sirens ever went off that day. And the parents all the parents were still at work. So that's tragic in of itself. But my sister thankfully was there with both my sisters were there with my nephews, and they were just waiting on my parents to get home. They saw the smoke, but they didn't think it was a big deal, because usually fires happen on the island at least once a year. We were used to it. Like, when I was in Lahaina Luna, there'd be a fire right in the field next to the school, but it was always easily contained. That's why it baffles me how they weren't able to do anything about this one. But they were home, and my sister said that when she went outside to look at the smoke from where it was coming from, she said that she noticed a fire, like two small fires, one in the back of their home and one in the front. And she doesn't know how they got there. She was confused about that, and she was like looking around to see what was going on. And just then my mom had come home with my dad, and she also saw the fires, and she decided to put the one in the back out because it was a smaller one. And as she went to go do that, my dad saw that the smoke was approaching faster and faster, and he started telling my mom that they need to go now. And their neighbor, who's a veteran, I forget from what war, but he also saw the fires, and he started dousing his home with water. And he's actually one of the few people that managed to save their homes. But when he was finally done with his house, he went over to my parents' house, and he started doing the same thing. But for some reason, they just shut off the water. They shut off the water and not the power. And I don't understand why that happened, because they're claiming that it was the power line that fell over and caused the fire to begin with. And it's like, why would you shut off the water and not the power? But after that, they managed to leave, and unfortunately, their house wasn't saved because they cut off the water. And that veteran, I wish I knew his name, but he was apologizing profusely to my family. He felt so terrible that he wasn't able to save my parents' home. He kept saying over and over again, I wish I could have saved your home. If they hadn't shut off the water, I could have saved your home as well. I'm so sorry. And I I wish I knew his name, because not only was he a veteran, apparently he was in a wheelchair, and I just couldn't believe that he would go out of his way to help my family like that.
They didn't turn off the electricity. And that I did not know about that the kids were home from school. I did see the article I just mentioned earlier, how they said that many of the missing are, oddly enough, they are, there's possibly a lot of kids. So the parents were at work, probably on the other side of the island. And they didn't turn off the electricity. They turned off the water. So there was electricity there to start fires, but there wasn't water to put them out. That's pretty infuriating.
Yes.
Wow, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your family.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, and my sister, I knew she knew more than I did about it, because even because it was like this really affected her, and just hearing from somebody that has the inside scoop, that's not just mainstream media's angle of it. It's like it hurts to hear it from somebody directly involved, with their, with something skin in the game. Like, this is your family and their family's home. Well, I hope that,
Yeah.
I guess you can only say thanks for what did not happen. Obviously the vet survived and his house survived, and but that's really sad. And the fact that he was sorry because he was doing something, going out of his way to help somebody else, and couldn't do it well enough because of things he could not control. That's what really got me. Well, I'm so sorry that happened, and thank you for sharing this with us.
No problem. I just wanted to tell my story just because I'm so far away from home, and I just wish I could be there with them.
Now, can you not fly there? Is there are you not able to go there, or is there other reasons why you can't go?
I was wondering about that myself. If part of me still wants to go and like just bring suitcases of anything that I could find that could help my family. But I just don't know the situation with the airport, just because it is on the east side of the island. So I feel like I could go still, but I don't know what I'd be coming back to, if I'd just be creating more issues for my family because of the limited resources right now.
Are they staying in a hotel or a shelter, or what? Where do they have a place?
Thankfully, the main place that my parents have been working for the past 20 years, the Kulakane, for anyone that's ever visited Maui and stayed on the west side, the Kulakane and the Halakai, they were graciously, like, well, I guess the clients that own those condos, they just love my family, and they have so much love and respect for my mom and dad and all the hard work that they put, that one of them actually is allowing them to stay right now in their condo.
Wow, that is very awesome to hear, and it sounds like that is a good place. So, well, can you potentially update us in a little bit and see if there's something else that changes, or maybe follow if what ends up happening? Because, like, I just wonder, how are they going to deal with this in the coming months, in the coming years? Like, what's going to happen to all of these? It's a very crazy thing to even think about.
Yeah, of course, I can call back as things develop. Of course.
Well, Stephanie, I'm so sorry this happened, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm praying for your parents, and I'm praying for that vet. That if you do find out, call us back. I would really like to talk to him. That guy obviously, he's still a hero. He was trying to be a hero. Very, very, very awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely a hero. When my sister told me about him, she said that when she finally met up with him again, he was all just blackened with ash and soot because he stayed and tried to save as many houses as he could. And he stayed until the very last second before he finally just left. And it was just, unfortunately, he just managed to save his home, but he tried his best. And he risked his life.
Well, Khon 2 or Khon, like they should be covering that guy. I hope somebody, if somebody's watching that has the hookup with Khon, they should go and find that guy. And he was in a wheelchair. Like that's a vet for you. I would guess he's, I wonder what war. Yeah, like that makes me wonder. Either way, thank you so much for calling in, Stephanie, and we're all praying for you. And again, thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, Adam. God bless.
All right. Thank you so much. God bless you as well. That was Stephanie from Kentucky with family in Lahaina. By the way, you won't have to worry about the whatever that was in chat. I hope that was a permanent. Won't have to deal with that ever again. Thank you, mods. All right. And what are some people, man? But that vet, that is, you see, you guys know what I mean? Like if they are going to do like the local news and things like that, they do these, somebody like that, he deserves to be highlighted. Also, it needs to be highlighted that they turned off the water. What was going on with that? I don't know the scenario around it, but that just sounds like something stupid. Dex, go ahead.
I just want to make sure you check screener.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Oh yeah, let's try to get him in. So we're gonna fly through the news. We actually are gonna we're gonna try to fit in an extra caller because it's a good one. All right. All right. Let's see here. Moscow court arrests U.S. national for espionage. Russian news agencies said a Russian flag flies on the. I'll skip to the good part. A Moscow court has arrested, not to the good part, but you guys get what I mean. Moscow court has arrested a U.S. citizen of Russian origin, Gene Spector, on suspicion of espionage. It says that the agencies provided no details of the charges, but according to RIA, in 2022, Spector was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for his role in bribing the assistant of ex-Russian Deputy PM Prime Minister Arkady Dvorkin. Says the court session was held behind closed doors as the case materials are classified, Interfax reported. So it's an exclusive, and it said, speaking to CNN, White House spokesman John Kirby said the administration was still collecting information about the case and had no comment yet. Probably something shady. And then a Russian general with details on Putin's $1 billion palace dies in prison. Dex, this isn't the same guy who like leaked the plans, right? This is the same guy.
I think it is.
We covered
he's
that.
the one who had all of the knowledge. He was set to. They said he was in good health, and he, I think he was up to get out at some point. He was eligible for parole soon, and now he's mysteriously perished.
Yeah, and by the way, this is and I'm pretty sure, 99.9% sure. A few months ago, there was the blueprints that came out that showed that Putin has this like beachside tunnel that goes under to the bunker under his billion-dollar palace. Can you imagine? Like I don't even know what $100 million house is like. A private jet is like 140 million, or one of the ones I saw on a short today. Kim Kardashian's private jet's like 140 million. That's to fly around in a plane any day, like a jet. $1 billion. That must be like every toilet seat is made of gold. How do you even pack so much money into a palace? Even if it's like, a mile wide, like $1 billion. That's $1,000 million. That is so incredibly stupid. But the plans showed, and it leaked out the plans of how his bunker works, which is not good for especially a president that, has adversaries with bunker busters. So that came out, and then mysteriously this guy perishes. The imprisoned Russian general who oversaw the buildings of Vladimir Putin's $1 billion Black Sea palace has died in custody. So, and by the way, Elon Musk has said that he believes Putin is much richer than him. And he has like, what, 250, 60 billion dollars? So much money. It's hard for me, just like it's hard for people to wrap their head around like, crazy theories. It's hard for me to wrap my head around that amount of money. That's just so stupid. So much money. This guy spends $1 billion on a house. Like even $100 million houses are so incredibly over the top. $1 billion. That's why people don't like these people. These people are disgusting. But this guy disappeared, and again, just so happens after that information came out. I think we know what happened. And then Hurricane Hilary updates. Tropical storm could bring strong winds to Southern California coast on Sunday morning. Now, remember what caused the Hawaii thing was a hurricane, right? 80-mile winds. It just so happens. I don't know what the weather is like in California, but if they have super, super hot and dry weather, Ilea, if you want to chime in, how is the weather there? Are you guys no rain? Is it super hot there? Because it's super hot up here. I could just see, oh man, what if they literally have the same thing happen now in California again? Dex, go ahead.
This was just upgraded as the show started to a Category 3, Jammer told me. So it's made it to Category 3 status. And the good news, though, on what you're describing, if there is good news about a potential hurricane hitting California, is that all the rain is coming with it. So the potential of that type of event happening is slim for them, maybe for someone else. But yeah, where that's going in, they're just going to get a torrent of rain, even all the way to Vegas.
Good. So there's going to be wind, but it won't be dry wind. It's going to have rain. So, yeah, I was just thinking, what a crazy, crazy world we would live in if the same thing happens there now. That would not be good. All right, let's get in. We got to get through. I'm just going to pop on. Mortgage rates could hit 8%, economists say, citing a worrying sign that has not been seen since the Great Recession. I think things are collapsing. You can read this on our website again. And then driverless car gets stuck in wet concrete in San Francisco. Pretty crazy, but it says driverless vehicles promise a future with less congestion and pollution, fewer accidents resulting from human error, and better mobility for people with disabilities, supporters say. But every now and then, one of the cars runs into trouble, a way that casts a bit of doubt on that bold vision. So if it was a Tuesday in San Francisco where a driverless car somehow drove into a city paving project and got stuck in wet concrete. Paul Harvey, 74, a retired contractor who lives in the city's Western Addition neighborhood, took a photo of the car with the roof-mounted sensors and says tipped slightly forward, and its front wheels mired in the fresh-poured concrete. Says, quote, "I thought it was funny," Mr. Harvey said. "I was kind of pleased because it illustrated how creepy and weird the whole thing is to me. This was the car. Literally drove into this. Yeah, this is super safe. These things are totally, they've totally caught up with tech. It drove right into wet concrete and is now stuck. Hey, maybe maybe San Francisco's so weird they'll go, you know what? Let's just leave it there. It's artsy, or well, it's San Francisco, so it'll probably end up on blocks within the hour, with just the 2 tires that are stuck. So who knows? But pretty funny if you ask me, and sort of scary because these things obviously have some blind spots. All right, let's get our callers. We have 2 back-to-back callers right now. Before we get our first caller on, and because we have Justin True from Hawaii, so that's going to be good. We have Neal, first-time caller, talking about Revelations. Let's see here. Let's get on Neal from Oregon. While you do that, I do want to remind you, if you don't have backup food, we have a really great and affordable reference for you, and this is more prudent than ever. Again, if you've lived through CV, then you know right when everything hit the fan, essentially all of the store shelves were empty. I would highly recommend getting something like this. When you break it down, when you get a 1 month or a 3 month, something like this, of freeze-dried food, it's going to last for 25 years. Who knows what food will cost in 25 years from now? So you can see why if you buy it today or yesterday, it's better. In fact, freeze-dried food, because of how it's prepared and how it's done, it has tripled in price in the last 4 years. So again, if you buy this now, in 4 years from now, if it triples again, you'll still have 21 years left on the shelf, and you won't have to purchase tomorrow's prices food. This is food. So it is literally something you can use to survive. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. It's one of the most important things. Again, this probably should actually be first, because people really should have any kind of backup like this. It's freeze-dried. It's going to last forever, and it holds a lot of its flavor in because, again, it just takes out all of the water molecules. It doesn't take up much space because it is essentially vacuum sealed, and again, it is something that is going to be there for a long, long time. marfooglenews.com/prep. Again, they now have 25% off on the 3-month plan. So that is the largest discount. I believe it's going to be right around $200 or more off of the 3-month plan. So make sure to go check it out. marfooglenews.com/prep. All right, Dex, let's get Neal on. Neal, you're live on Marfoogle News. What's going on and how are you doing?
Hey, very well, Adam. Can you hear me?
I'm good. Did I say that right, Neal?
Hello?
Is it Neal?
Yeah. Well, it's good enough. It's Niall.
Niall. Okay.
Kind of like Nye and then the name Al. Yeah, that'll work.
All right, Niall.
So first of all, I just want to thank you and Dex for you guys are really on point with your sharing the news and everything. I'm kind of a new listener. Been about probably like 4 or 5 months now. But yeah, you guys are on point, and I just figured you guys might appreciate this. At first, I was thinking about calling in, but then I changed my mind. And then one of your first listener brought up Revelation 18. I thought, wow, that's exactly what I was kind of wanting to share. And I thought, well, maybe God wants me to call in. So here I am. And but at first, I want to apologize because it may be a little controversial. So I apologize to the listeners if it's offensive or controversial to any. But I do want to let everybody know that I do love this nation. I love freedom. I love the fact that many died for freedom, and I was in the Navy actually. But I believe in the Book of Revelation, it describes the whore of Babylon to be this country, and I'll just go through a couple of notes that I've got here. There are some characteristics of the whore of Babylon, and the first one is she's the world's leading consumer, and so it's a nation in the world that consumes the most goods, and when she's gone, the merchants all over the world weep and mourn for her. And then number 2 is she's responsible for spreading violence all over the world, and number 3 is she will receive double, and she'll be destroyed in 1 hour, which to me that represents nuclear. And number 4 is she's responsible for ending the lives of many of God's children. And, if you just think about all the people who died for freedom, all the freedom lovers, all the really awesome human beings that gave their life for something that they really believed in, which is a good thing, like I said. And then the fifth one is she sits on many waters. Well, that's people from all over the world. It says in the book of Revelation, she sits on many waters, which represents the peoples from many nations, tribes, and tongues. Well, I mean, there's 5 characteristics right there that there's no other nation in this entire world that can fit that description. So basically, oh yeah, and if out of many one, if you look on the back of the $1 bill, you see that it says e pluribus unum. That means out of many one. And so I don't know if many people are aware of it, but the AKA bricklayers, it's a secret society. I'm not going to say their name, but AKA bricklayers.
Everybody gets
they're
it.
basically the founders of this. Yeah. Okay. Good. Well, and it's a very secret society. And what many people don't know, my dad's a 33rd degree, is once you get up to like 30 and higher, you really find out who you're worshiping. And they tell you that the name is Lucifer, the light bearer. And like I said, my dad's a 33rd degree, and he, to this day, he will not even admit it, but I've done all my research and I know he won't use a name or anything, but he knows. But anyway, if you look at read Manly P. Hall's books, he lays it all out there. But anyway, yeah, it's all over the $1 bill. I mean, this is real. This is the real deal. We're living in this. This is the real world. Revelation is the truth. Well, so what about the mark of the beast? And basically, that's kind of my point to the listeners is, whenever all is said and done, what's going to be the mark of the beast? Well, who would be the one to issue something in your right hand or forehead in order to buy, sell, or trade? Well, China is already issuing. They already have these computer chips. They're already doing stuff like that. What nation on this entire world, on this entire planet, would do something like that? It seems to me it's easy to believe that China would be the one to issue that type of mark of the beast. So anyway, that's pretty much all I had to say. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it's definitely something I figure you guys, if you didn't already know, something to look into, and definitely in the long run, I don't know how long it's going to be, but definitely don't take a computer chip in your hand.
Which, there's already people that have. There's, people are, the younger crowd is like, oh, this is cool. I can pay with my hand. We're all looking at this and going, how is this real right now?
Yeah.
People are getting it in their wrists so they can tap to pay.
Yeah, it's not a parable. It's the real deal. Yeah.
Ilea says, no chip for me. Yeah, everybody here, like that's, what's crazy though? It's kind of like day one stuff 101, and there's so many people that find it last. Like they find out last about that kind of stuff. I was just watching something about
exactly.
So if your dad got to 33rd, isn't that the big bad kind of evil level? So
you can tell too because go ahead.
Was he asked to renounce God? That's what I've heard. That's the rumor. What happens when you hit 33?
He really when you get that high up, and I know this from experience. When you get that high up, you literally have demons at your command. When you're a 30 degree or 31 and higher, you literally are assigned demons at your command. And so they really believe these higher ups, like my dad, they really do believe that they're following God because they're experiencing this supernatural power in their prayers. Whenever I have to deal with spiritual warfare every day of my life because of him. And he doesn't realize I've even wrote him this long letter and said, Dad, when you're praying, I mean, what are you saying about me in your prayers? Oh my God, and because I'm trying to explain to him what he's really doing. I said, well, who do you call God? Is it Lucifer? And he gets all really mad whenever I say that, but they really believe that like the Bible, is it's like they twist it, and they believe that really Lucifer is God, and that the Bible was written in order to to keep the population not knowing the real truth. In other words, I don't know how to word that, but they really do believe they're following God. So, but they're just been lied to, and they believe, and they really do have, the supernatural power that kind of validates their belief.
So some said that the movie They Live is kind of a parable to those people that it's not actually aliens, it's these guys, and everything they put forward is like these, kind of subliminal signs that keep us asleep. And the point of my intro, by the way, was that we're waking up from that. We're destroying the satellite that
Nice.
keeps us under that, but a lot of people didn't get that. Is your father successful, like wildly successful? Because that's another thing that most of us assume.
Yeah, he is. He retired from the sheriff's department, and he's from a smaller town, but everybody in this town literally bows down to him. And I don't know how they get that to happen, but it's a really big time power trip. And so he is successful in his sort of own way, and maybe not financially millionaire or anything, but in his little small town, he's basically, in his mind, he's God of his town,
Yeah, powerful, respected. Well,
yeah, that's what it's all about. Yeah,
exactly. So, Niall, thank you for calling in. We do have Maui, not Maui Racing Realtor. We have Justin True on right behind you. But I thank you for calling in, and
Great.
You don't hear very often from folks that are...
For sure. Thanks for taking my call, brother.
Yeah, no, thank you. We don't hear from anybody that actually related or knows. There's a lot of folks out there that have been a part of it at some point. There are people in the audience I know that were lower level and then got out of it when they figured out what what it was. A lot of people did it because their parents did it and their parents did it. It's pretty freaky when you learn about it. But again, there's all sorts.
Sharing that, yeah.
Yeah, there's other ones like it too. Anyways, well, we have to do a show on some of that at some point. Thank you so much for calling in, Niall.
Yes. Thank you, Adam. God bless.
All right, God bless you.
Bye.
That was Niall, and I could see that. From what I heard is they have connections. It doesn't mean because there's so many that are at that level. It's not like every one of them is going to be the president, but almost all of the presidents have been, right? And then as far as the they're connected. They basically help their own. Dex, go ahead.
I was going to say Justin True is on the line.
Sweet. We got Justin True. So Justin True's from Hawaii. And yeah. All right. Thank you. Justin True, you're live.
Hey man, how's it going?
Hey, good. So I don't know. I know you're in Hawaii, but I didn't know how this affected you. I saw a comment that basically you said that you thought that the number was a lot higher, but other than that, I'm going into this blind. So, what's happening?
Oh, no, I'm born and raised here on Maui. And half of my family lives in Lahaina. Most of my family lives in Lahaina. And it's been a crazy last couple of weeks, or last week. I definitely know that the body count is preposterous, is an absolute lie. They're saying 93 or so. It's going to be closer to, hundreds, if not 1,000, closer to 1,000. I've been through Lahaina, and I've driven through yesterday and the day before, and it's the things that they're saying that they have cleared, they haven't cleared well. The FEMA has not done very well in their response, like usual. But basically, dude, last week I was at work, and I work in Haleakala, which is the mountain on the other side of the island, and there was this big fire, which was an actual wildfire. There was a down line in Kula on the other side of the island, and the fire was going. It was raging and raging and raging all day, and this is nowhere near Lahaina. And so I drive home, and I live in Wailuku, which is, you know, in the center of the island, and I go to bed, and I wake up because my mom and my dad live in Lahaina, and the fires burned basically my cousin's house, all my nephews, my nieces, like it just burned. It's burned all of Lahaina, and it was creeping up to my parents' house. So this is probably midnight, 1 o'clock. No, not even, probably 11 o'clock or midnight. I jump in my truck and I drive out. Dude, like, I always have water, always have food, always be prepared. And like, if there's going to be a fire, if there's going to be a hurricane, have your routes and have your preps ready. Like this may be a cool, fun and game, like hobby for some people, but this will save your life, if you take it seriously. Because having this water and having this food and having these preparations honestly saved lives. And I'm so absolutely grateful. But when I drove to the poly. The poly's it's the one way, you know, I mean, it's 2 lanes, one going in, one going out of Lahaina. But as soon as I got there, the police had stopped anybody going into Lahaina. And they basically were just turning people around to get back out of, to not enter Lahaina, but they weren't letting anybody leave Lahaina. I was there at 11 or 12, and I was like, my parents, what? They can't leave. They can't. What are they supposed to do? What about all my cousins? What are they supposed to do? The cops weren't letting the people leave town, leave Lahaina. The only traffic that was being moved was the traffic that was going from town into Lahaina, and the cops were stopping them and turning them around and sending them back. And it was all cell phones were down, power was down all day long. The earlier caller was right that the kids were not at school. School's off that day. So the one thing that I need people to stop saying for sure is it was not a wildfire. Obviously, there's all kinds of crazy things that happen in discussions when there's fires like this, and we won't get into any details at all, but it doesn't do anybody justice by calling it a wildfire, and it doesn't do anybody any good, and it doesn't bring up the conversations that should be happening, which are talking about hardening our infrastructure lines or the government response. What happened was not just a wildfire. There was a cause, and there was a reason that this happened, and a real investigation has to be happened. And no pressure is going to be pushed from the public onto the government if we continue to push this line that it's a wildfire, and that's what the media keeps calling it, a wildfire. And of course, all of us know other people that are calling it something else, but that doesn't help us either because nobody's going to take that seriously. So why don't we direct this towards an actual conversation that's feasibly going to help us out? Right now, the only thing that matters is trying to find people. Most people are still missing, and at this point, the people that are missing were probably aren't missing. They're probably gone at this point. The amount of kids that I know that are gone is the sickening part. The two old folks' homes that are on the west side didn't even get a chance to move. Everybody tried to leave Lahaina and was driving out of Lahaina. We were driving so late because they saw buildings on fire. When they saw them on fire, they thought that the fire department was going to come, but nobody came. And so by the time they were trying to leave, they were jumping in their cars to leave. The cops stopped the traffic because they didn't want them to drive into another. They had no idea what was going on. For some reason, the cops were stopping traffic out of Lahaina, and it's preposterous. When I got to the blockade, I turned right back around because they finally were bringing burn victims, and I had to go see who was at least being brought by the burn victims. And one of my buddies, who ironically is was in Fallujah. He was burned in Fallujah, but he is a bartender, and he woke up to the explosions. And he was telling me, he's like, I woke up to the explosions going off. There was no sirens. The power was out. He went in and jumped into the ocean right there next to the reef, right on Front Street, and he just sat there and wasn't at water, just treading water, and watched as Front Street and Bubba Gump and these like very well-known buildings just burnt into the ocean. And as he watched them burning into the ocean, it got darker and darker. He said, dude, I had to go try and do something. It was getting so late. I was in the water forever. I didn't have my shoes on, but he tried to get up off the reef, get onto the ground and run, because some guy said, it's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better. We all got to go. We all got to go. So he got up, he tried to get on the concrete and run, but he didn't have any shoes on. And the bottom of his feet got 3rd-degree burns down to his bone because it was so hot. The floor and the ground was so hot. And everybody in his group got totally separated. He jumped back into the water, and this is a full-grown Marine, dude. This is a full-grown 40-year-old man who's in better shape than I am, and he had to tread water. He got burnt out. He got smoked out. He had to get fireman carried out of there after he was found by the guard, dude. There's still people. I still have friends that are being pulled out now because they didn't allow anybody in or out of Front Street. For even the emergency, they didn't have the emergency evacuation, or the emergency personnel didn't even go into Front Street, one of the main area, until 24 hours after the fire. So it's what's happening now. Mostly is it's going to be this will be the greatest loss of life and tragedy that we've seen since 9/11 in the United States. This will be the most lethal fire in American history. And this, honestly, what land grabs or whatever conspiracies associated to it at this point doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because right now there's other things, much more important things that need to be happening. We still need to find our friends. We still need to find our family. I'm missing family. I'm missing friends. There are people, as soon as they're bringing in burn victims, just watching your friends and family and people you know in your entire town, people you were raised with, people you've grown up with, just coming out in rags or burns, or it's surreal when it hits you, dude. When tragedy hits you and you don't know it's coming and nobody ever knows it's coming, it's just absolutely surreal. There's 2,000 people missing. You know what I mean? There's going to be at least 600 to 1,000 people are going to be gone. A lot of them are going to be kids and elderly, the tutus and nanas, all the old people. The response was horrible. There was multiple fires all over Maui at the time. And even right now, where I'm not allowed to go, I can't go to my parents right now. I can't go get my parents food. I can't go get my parents water. I went over, we dropped off. I went to twice. We had to drop off a convoy. We did drop offs. We drove luckily into there, and they allowed us because they were so gracious. But as soon as FEMA showed up, they stopped giving the guard and Maui PD stopped signing us to allow us to go over there, and we couldn't. We did 2 drop-offs. Both of them went well. One was kind of sketchy because people started to try and loot the convoy of water, of food and stuff because nobody had gas. Electric cars were useless, absolutely useless on that side because power is out. Now nobody can go over there. They opened it up for a little bit and said, okay, we're going to allow some people on the west side. And then they closed it, and then they victim blamed and said, oh, no, never mind. You guys can't because you're going to go try and look at bodies. The government blamed us, said that we couldn't go help our family and help our friends because we were going to go look at bodies on the ground, that we're not adult enough. Of course, we're going to go look at bodies on the ground. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for the bodies on the ground. This was preposterous in every way. Our community knows that government isn't here to help. Our community knows this. We all know it. But dude, we don't I didn't until I saw it in action. I couldn't believe it to be true. The amount of ignorance or the amount of, if it's maliciousness, I'm not sure, but the damage that their ill preparedness and no response did was absolutely sickening. And they're still stopping us. The other day, yesterday, with the blockade, everybody was getting tired of not being able to go in and bring their friends and family food and relief and gas and water or insulin or whatever. Bro, it's getting so nuts. They're not allowing certain things in, and people may laugh at it's horrible. The dude tried to drive through the blockade, the police blockade, because he couldn't get to, he did. He actually drove his truck straight through the police blockade, almost hit a cop, drove straight through, went on by. And they're still not letting anybody over, and they're probably not going to. Red Cross and, oh, go ahead, brother.
Oh, no, it's, I just want to let you know the show's about to end over on the main channel. So, but it's going to continue over into jams. So, just wanted to give you a heads up if you, I'm really blown away that they turned people around, really blown away that they, I guess, what was the reasoning behind the turning off the water? Do you know about that? Why that would have happened? Or was that because the power was off to the,
when before the fire happened, the water was shut off. Because the major wind was whipping through, dude. The wind was the wind was unlike any wind that even the old people said. They're like, something's up with this wind. The wind was whipping in a way that Maui doesn't really ever get wind. Like crazy, crazy wind. It brought down power lines. It brought down all of Front Street. What a lot of people don't understand is Front Street was built like over 100 years ago. It's made out of it's tinder. All of that is made out of old wood that was really not made for any high wind, not made for hurricanes. A lot of people think in their mind like, oh, Maui's got to be, hit by hurricanes before, so whatever is there is at least toughen up for that. But we've never been hit. We never had a direct hurricane hit. Iniki didn't even hit us directly. So the things were coming off, and like part of the power lines all going down Lahaina on Front Street were down. A lot of those pipes broke. The water was broken, and what happens in these old pipes, because these are old pipes, there's no backfill. There's no a stop back. So what happens when your pipes, when they break in an accident or they break in a catastrophe, a lot of asbestos or lead or viruses or any kind of, if there's corpses, anything can get into this water and actually go into your water supply, get into your pipes and go down into your water supply because there's no pressure on the line, and infects the water. So in a situation like this, it can be extremely frustrating where you try and save a house, you try and go for the water during a fire and the water's out, but the water had been out for hours before the fire started because the wind had brought down and broken lines, main lines and big lines, which could have backfilled into old lines, and water lines have just been bad. So the excuse, and what we're hearing from the water department, is broken lines lead to people getting sick. But in my opinion, it's like that doesn't matter if you have a fire going. But allegedly the pipes had broken before the fire had started. And that's why we didn't have any water.
Well, the gentleman, while the fire was going, he had enough to water down his house, and then it stopped. So it makes you wonder about that. Well, Justin, true, it sounds like you have been through a lot this week. Your friend, that is absolutely insane. We've seen the scenes from that, specifically those people that were off of, we've probably seen him in the background of one of these videos, because There's video showing all along Front Street and these people out in the water that came out a couple days after it happened. There was cell phone video. These people waiting in the water. Your friend is probably in that video. Pretty crazy to even think about.
Oh, yeah.
And it was darker.
Yeah,
it got dark, and people were still waiting.
It's dark. Well, the crazy part is all the explosions. He's like, dude, the smell and the explosions, like all of the boats caught fire. The boats in Lahaina Harbor all blew up, but then all the boats that were all like moored, they just kind of had anchors and they were hooked up to moors that were kind of out there and spread apart. All of those blew up too. So it happened so quick, dude. The speed of it just happened so fast.